You know that the truth always reveals itself. There is no escaping it. Hidden intentions have a peculiar way of emerging. The mask someone wears may seem convincing, but time is an unrelenting revealer. This friend comes close, with smiles and promises. He does what he does. He manipulates. He watches. He waits. And you, in your quest for connection, react. You trust. You surrender. You believe. The pattern repeats. The disguise is maintained, but the support is fragile. Each day brings a new crack. You don't realize it, but something is changing. Actions speak louder than words. Empty promises are just echoes of what will never be fulfilled. This is not an accident, it is a cycle. And the cycle only intensifies. You begin to question. But doubt changes nothing. The bond is maintained because you allow it. It is not strong, it is unsustainable. The choice to stay is yours. The truth is harsh. You don't need to understand what doesn't deserve your energy. Accept that it is so. When someone wants to be your friend, they act. Presence is a decision. If you are striving to maintain this connection, you have already realized you are alone. Standing still is a decision, and that decision is yours. The reality has already been presented. The truth unfolds like a crumpled piece of paper. Each fold reveals something you would prefer to ignore. You observe the details, but denial still speaks louder. The cycle is clear. Manipulation is a subtle dance, and you become the spectator. Each gesture, each look, is a piece on the board. He moves with precision while you become entangled. This friend does not just come close, he infiltrates. He makes himself necessary for you to feel that your life has meaning. But as he settles in, what really grows is your fear of loss. Not of the friendship, but of rejection. This fear is the fuel that sustains the vicious cycle. You try to understand your actions, crafting narratives to justify each fault, each absence. Silence weighs more than a scream, and you, without even realizing it, start adjusting to fit into the mold he created. Thus, you become a hostage to his needs, while your own take a back seat. And when he disappears, you find yourself plunging into questions. It's a spiral, searching for answers that never come. Then you act. Send messages, call, schedule meetings. You build bridges that always collapse. The pattern reaffirms itself. The need for attention makes you believe it's worth it, that all of this has a purpose. But by the end of the day, you feel empty. You return the energy, but the other just takes it. The bond is not an exchange. It's a one-sided transaction. Interactions turn into account statements, while the true connection dissipates. You give, he receives, and it's never enough. This state is familiar. You've been through this before. You might even recognize the signs. But there's a difference now. The wear is accumulating. The effort turns into fatigue. You realize you're investing energy in someone who only offers a shadow of friendship, and a shadow is never a loyal companion. Faced with this, your mind seeks space, a place where hope still withstands. These small fissures begin to open the way for doubt. What happens when you stop? When you decide not to adapt anymore? It's a troubling thought. You fear loneliness, but this loneliness might be less painful than the insistence on maintaining this bond. You ponder over your choices, a choice that has ceased to be conscious. The real challenge is identifying where your will ends and where manipulation begins. The other has become a constant in your life, but you are not just a reflection of his decisions. However, the fear of rupture keeps you imprisoned. Reflect. What is the real cost of this friendship? What price do you daily pay for the presence of someone who is not really present? Time is a silent witness, and what it reveals is often more brutal than any direct confrontation. You may feel powerless, but do not be mistaken. There is no neutrality in this situation. Accepting uncertainty can be the first step to letting go of the desperate need for validation. You do not need permission to walk away. The result is clear. When someone wants to be in your life, words are unnecessary. Presence is palpable. Actions speak for themselves. However, what you receive is a distant echo. You live in a room full of sounds but empty of content. Now glimpse this truth. Those who do not strive for you do not deserve your space. So allow yourself to consider, is this friend a friend or a distraction? What do you gain by staying in this cycle? This question is crucial. You must face it. Recognizing manipulation is the first light in the darkness. When you finally understand that the other is not willing to align, it is time to cut the ties. Freedom is not found in empty promises, but in the ability to decide that what no longer serves does not need to be part of your life anymore. You have the power to break the cycle. You have the ability to choose solitude over an unsustainable relationship. And this choice is as valid as seeking connection. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in walking away, in not allowing others to decide your worth. Reality has already been presented. What you do with it now is your responsibility. When the truth imposes itself, it carries a weight that you cannot ignore, and this reality is slippery. You may try to grasp it, but it slips through your fingers, leaving only emptiness. These cracks that were once small have now turned into deep holes. You walk a tightrope, balancing between the need for belonging and the toxicity that has become your daily life. Each step is a choice. You know this, but even so, you hesitate. Over time, you start to notice the signs. The way he smiles, the way he talks, the way he acts. There is a repeating pattern, and you are aware of it. But what to do with this awareness? You wonder if it's worth distancing yourself. What would that say about you? This doubt turns into an echo that reverberates in your mind and won't leave you in peace. The friend who approaches but never arrives. The presence that seems real but is in essence a mirage. You watch the drama unfold like a movie, and you become the spectator. Each scene is a repetition of previous failures. He appears, you rejoice, he disappears, you become sad. A cycle that becomes an inescapable routine. And you reflect, am I just a character in this plot? Or am I indeed the protagonist of my story? This reflection is unsettling, because it implies a harsh look at yourself, an analysis that can be painful. You realize you've invested so much time and energy trying to justify behaviors that need no justification. What starts as friendship turns into a labyrinth where the exits are constantly blocked. Attempts at perception are unmasked by actions that contradict the words. The other's silence echoes as a clear answer, a message you should have already understood. But hope, this last line of defense, continues to fuel the idea that things can change, a belief that is as seductive as it is destructive. You find yourself revisiting memories, analyzing each interaction, looking for clues that validate your suspicions. It's a mental game you know you can't win. The pieces are assembled, but the board still seems undefined. And every time you try to break free from this cycle of expectations and frustrations, something pulls you back. This friend presents themselves as a savior in moments of loneliness, but at the same time they are an energy thief. With each unanswered message, each cancelled meeting, you realize the cost is increasing. The emotional bill you're accumulating is too high to ignore. You may have started questioning if the amount of effort really compensates for the weakness of this connection. What do you gain from it? Always being available when this person only appears when it's convenient? What do you give in exchange for this crumb of attention? Their presence is an illusion, and at the same time a constant. You try to find security in a relationship that is anything but solid. The fear of breaking away outweighs the desire for freedom, and the line between affection and dependence becomes increasingly thin. You feel a need for a space to breathe, a place where your needs are met, but the idea of cutting ties seems unbearable. What will come afterward? Loneliness? The abyss? However, this resistance causes internal pressure. You feel suffocated by self-imposed expectations. Then a spark of clarity appears. You don't need permission. You don't need external validation to recognize your own pain. On the contrary, understanding that this cycle is harmful is an act of courage. Freedom begins to seem more attractive, while the prison becomes claustrophobic. Remember, relationships should be an exchange. If you are constantly giving but never receiving, the equation is wrong. The true value of any friendship lies in balance. And if that balance tips to only one side, it's time to reevaluate. When you finally decide that you no longer need this type of relationship, the outcome can be liberating. The lightness you gain by releasing this burden is unmatched. You realize you don't need someone who doesn't value your presence. Loneliness can be painful, but the insistence on maintaining this connection is a greater suffering. It's a difficult but necessary choice. Life waits for no one. The breaking point is where you learn about your own boundaries. You are not an unfinished project. You are a work in progress. And sometimes, the best you can do is leave some parts behind. Thus, reality has already been presented. You have the power to shape it according to your needs. And what you do with this reality now is up to you. You see yourself in a mirror, reflecting the image you have built all this time. A familiar face but marked by exhaustion. The eyes, a window to invisible battles. The light that once shone begins to fade slowly under the weight of others' expectations. The internal struggle is constant. Promises of change echo in your mind but don't translate into action. You observe the repeated cycles as if they were scenes from a movie you've seen before. Each reunion feels like a rerun of what never evolves. And the truth is that no matter how comfortable this routine may seem, it suffocates. You try to rationalize, you tell yourself that friendship is complex, but complexity should not be synonymous with pain. What you consider normal should be nourishment, not poison. And beneath this surface of normality, latent feelings simmer, ready to explode. The moment of clarity comes like a lightning bolt on a cloudy day. You realize that this connection is not only unsustainable but harmful. It becomes clear that you expect something the other cannot give, genuine reciprocity. And while you struggle to maintain the fantasy, reality becomes more and more painful. The idea of confronting this truth provokes anxiety. You fear the conflict, the discomfort that comes with the shattering of illusions, but you also feel the urge to free yourself from this vicious cycle. Loneliness presents itself as a friend, alongside the pain from the incessant search for another's affection. Thus, the question persists. What happens when you decide to no longer tolerate this relationship? You hesitate. The uncertainty of the unknown provokes deep unrest. It's easier to follow the beaten path than to face the darkness of chosen solitude. And this choice weighs like an anchor on your heart. Every missed call, every ignored message are reminders of what could have been if there had been balance. You reflect on the good times, the shared laughter, but soon realize that these moments do not compensate for the lack of emotional support. The laughter turns into an echo, the joy into a distant whisper. On solitary nights, your brain wages a battle. The insidious doubt resurfaces, questioning your decisions. You wonder about the value you attribute to yourself. Deep down, the answer echoes. You are worth more than you were treated. This realization generates momentary relief, but soon the insecurity settles back in. What if you don't have enough courage? What if the idea of staying in your comfort zone is stronger than the desire to break free? These questions are chains that tie your legs and hinder your walk. However, a seed of hope begins to sprout. The idea that deserving freedom can outweigh the need for attention. Now the thoughts unfold in a clear pattern. You visualize the pain that this friend brings. Their pain that accumulated over time, like sand in an hourglass. Each grain represents a faulty decision to ignore the signs, to forgive behaviors that should be unacceptable. You realize the cycle and its brutal functioning. Manipulation is not an art, it's a cruel reality. And you, the involuntary apprentice, are tired of continuing to dance to the music you did not choose. You know that freedom is not just about walking away, but about recognizing how much you have accepted less than you deserve. When all the factors align, a moment of epiphany arises. You do not need permissions or elaborate explanations. The simple act of walking towards the truth presents itself as an act of courage. The boundary between dependence and freedom becomes increasingly clear. And when you look back, you contemplate the path traveled, every step that led to your current situation. You begin to understand that the roots of your pain are nourished by a choice to remain. It's not about being cruel, it's about avoiding cruelty to yourself. You face the fact, leaving behind this toxic relationship is not abandoning someone, but rediscovering yourself. The murmurs of denial give way to a raw reality. It is difficult, it is confusing, but it is necessary. And so with each breath, you gain strength. Now you ponder. The fall may be painful, but the recovery can also be liberating. The cost of remaining in this dynamic becomes clear, and you finally decide to act. One move, one word, one choice. These small actions have immense power. As the new understanding sets in, the need for external validation begins to dissipate. In fact, loneliness is not an enemy to be feared, but a state that allows self-knowledge. You start to realize that rising after this breakup may be the first step towards a new type of connection, one that celebrates who you truly are. Remaining in doubt is a choice. Action, even if difficult, is an act of affirmation, and when you take a stand, you move forward. By freeing yourself, you not only expel manipulation, you also make room for new possibilities. Facing reality is a demanding task, but you now know that the pain of staying is much greater than the discomfort of changing. The weight you carried begins to dissipate, and you experience a lightness you haven't felt in a long time. What remains now is the responsibility for your own life, and that responsibility is a gift. You decide not just to survive, but to live fully, without the burden of others' expectations. A new era begins to emerge before you, and reality has already been presented.